YouTubers and MicroGrinders, Alton for MicroGrinder.com, back again with another episode for How to Beat Bovada Zone series. And I'm here playing 4 tables of Bovada Zone. On the top we have 2 tables of 10 and L, and on the bottom I have 2 tables of 5 and L. So I played quite a bit of a volume of hands today on Zone, easily over 1,500 hands, and I've had a rough go of it today. At the peak I was down 2 buy-ins at 10 and L and 2 buy-ins at 5 and L. And hopefully this session is going to be a bit better than it was earlier. And just for fun, I'm going to show you how bad I ran earlier today. So this was literally like my second or third hand in. And we have ace queen suited opens. I 3-bet him big. He flats. He flops the nut straight and the royal flush draw. I flop top set. We end up getting it in on the turn, and he holds up. So yeah, that was how my session started. Not a really great way to start my session, but that's how it goes. And then again, another hand here, pocket tens versus ace jack. He flops top set. I flop the up down straight draw and the ace high flush. We end up getting it in on the turn when I hit the nut. Well, not the nut straight, but versus him, it's the nuts. And he hits his 20% equity, hitting his boat on the river. And then lastly, another one, ace 10 versus pocket fours, and of course I flop trip aces. He flops a boat and I lose. And that's kind of how it went all afternoon today, and it was just really rough. But I've just been going with it. I've been playing, it's just playing my game. So I was down, like I said, up to 4 buy-ins, and now I'm only down a couple buy-ins. And I'm hoping that it runs a bit better today in this portion of my session. I should actually say this evening, because it's past 10 p.m. And so I'm hoping that the session is going to run better than it did this afternoon. And we'll just see how it goes. And that's Bovada, and that's Bovada Zone. You're going to get coolers when you play a high volume of hands. But oddly enough for me, it seems like when I play on Bovada, whether I'm playing standard games or I'm playing Zone, it seems that a majority of my coolers are coming on Zone, and I really think it's just the randomness of the cards. I play 6 max on Zone, I play 6 max on regular games, regular tables. Here I'm just going to call, I'm not going to 3-bet. And here I'm just going to check. But I haven't played that many hands at Zone. Here I'm just going to call. I'm not going to, you could squeeze. To squeeze them out. It is a bit weak, but I don't mind flatting with 9s and trying to hit a set, and just going ahead and donking out on this flop for just under a pot size bet, because it is a really wet flop. And then again, we have a set down here as well. I like to go ahead and bet on the turn here, and so on this board I'm going to bet really big again, just under a pot size, and here we're going to go ahead and raise it up to $1. And this is a terrible river, so I'm just going to half pot it, and I'm going to fold to a raise. But luckily we hold up. So yeah, definitely a good way to start my session. I don't like this turn here, but I am not slowing down. If I get raised, I probably have to fold here. And when he jams, 22% pot odds. I have around 20% equity to catch up, so I think it's close. I am going to call it off because it's only 5 and L. But I think he has the diamonds a lot, but I have redraw, so that's why I called. Ace 9, I meant to open that. So it was really close. With the set of 6s there, I had about 10 outs, and that gives me around 20% equity, actually 21.3, so I was getting perfect amount of pot odds to make the call there. So that's why I made the call there. Pot odds dictated I made the call, so went ahead and called there. It's okay that I didn't win, just how it goes sometimes. But when I'm getting decent pot odds with his jam, I have to call that off. On the queens here, when he calls, I do not like that he called, so I think he easily has a king in his range. Here, I don't like that the flush hit, so I'm going to go ahead and check. And I'm going to go ahead and check this one down as well. I am going to go ahead and raise it up with the queens. And when he bets out here, I'm just going to go ahead and make the fold. And interesting that everybody calls my 3-bet here. This typically does not happen at 10 and L, but I guess the game's really fishy, and I hate the king. Pretty much the worst flop in the world for me with queens. And the only thing we can do here really is just fold our hand, to be honest. I'm going to sit out just to look at the ranges to see how loose people are playing tonight. And I am going to go ahead and fire just over half pot c-bet here. When I get a check representing the queen, I do have a king as well that I can hit. And I'm going to open up the hand replayer. And pocket nines and jack king. So this guy calls a 3-bet with jack king. That's how bad he is. And we'll go ahead and bet. I'm going to sit out just to go over that hand where I called the jam on the turn. Simply because I want you to know why I called the jam there. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to the turn. So when I bet and he jams all in, and before I call, if I look at my pot odds and for some reason it's not showing my pot odds, oh, it's showing my pot odds. My pot odds are estimated to be roughly 22%. And with 10 outs here, so I have 3 4s, 3 deuces, 3 kings, and 1 6. That gives me 10 outs. Looking at my odds charts here, that is going to be 21.3%. So it's pretty much a break-even call there. It's pretty much a coin flip. And so I decided that I was just going to call it off because it's 5-L. And he could be fishy, and he could have something like ace-king, where he had the ace of diamonds and he picked up top pair, top kicker with the nut flush draw. So that's why I called it off there. I think that I could win a certain amount of time rather than always being behind. Alright, let's get back on the tables. Gonna make the fold here. And that's the downside of playing on zone, is that people call 3-bets really light with the jack king off, and I can't tag them, I can't take notes. We just go to a new table, you don't know who you're playing against, you don't know how they're playing, so that's just really unfortunate. That's one of the disadvantages to playing on zone. Here I'm just going to flat, plays fine against his opening range on the button, but we don't have a diamond, we don't have an ace. Unfortunately, we're going to be check folding. And I am going to, let's see, this is an under the gun raise. I'm just going to go ahead and flat, since it's an under the gun raise. And decent flop first here. And again, like I said, people are playing fairly loose here, but this is going to work out to my advantage. So we're going to bet on the big side since this is a fairly wet board texture. When it checks, I am going to go ahead and bet. Top pair, top kicker. We're going to go ahead and bet again. And we're going to go ahead and bet a half pot. Pot committing myself at this point. Easy fold with the ace-3 offsuit. Ace-9 off. Definitely you can open this on the cutoff. It's near the bottom end of my opening range. So yeah, getting back to the whole anonymous factor is that you really don't know who's going to be doing what, so you really have to develop population reads and base your play based upon population reads. And what's interesting is that you saw in my previous episode, I looked at how often people are folding at the 3-bets. In the earlier positions, they're flatting 3-bets, and later positions they're folding. And so they're flatting with a lot of weak hands, and they're also folding with a lot of weak hands, and they're rarely 4-betting. The 4-betting percentage is insanely low, so you don't have to worry about being 4-bet that often. Pocket deuces here, we could isolate, but I think they're too weak to isolate, so I'm just going to overlimp because I don't expect to get squeezed that often at 5-L. And here I'm going to fold with a short stacker here. Deuce 3 suited, going to be easy check fold, and here we're just going to go ahead and fold. 7 jack suited, we can definitely open this up on the button. And at 5-L, I just make it a standard 3x on the button. I was watching a video on Ivy League, and one of the coaches there, he was experimenting with button opens on Bovada, specifically at the higher stakes, not so much at the lower stakes. But he did analysis where he was doing a min raise versus a 2.5x versus a 3x, and he found that the min raise was not working very well at all, and that the 2.5x and 3x were working about the same frequency. They were working at about roughly 50% of the time. So there really isn't that much of advantage to doing a 3x versus a 2.5x, especially at 10 and L. But at 5 and L, I think that you should just be doing a 3x because people aren't going to respect a 2.5x just because the monetary value is so low. But what he did find is that when people were min raising on the button is that they were not getting many folds at all. So the fold percentages were much lower than when it was for 2.5x. And I think they were around 30% versus 50%. So just some food for thought, you know, when you are opening on the button, if you play the higher stakes, if you play 25 and L, 10 and L, 2.5x seems to be the magic number for Bovada at least. And he also looked at his data, and he had some of the other poker pros in Ivy League that play on stars, and they agreed that, you know, even on stars, the 2.5x is the magic number. I hate this flop with the king. I'm going to go ahead and check because the only thing I get called by is an ace. I can get called by a flush, but here I'm going to go ahead because I have the gutter to the nut straight. Just go ahead and do a half pot size bet. This guy is short stacked. It seems like a fish, so I am going to go ahead and call. This guy min raises me. I'm going to call, given the 17% pot odds. Try to spike an ace or jack on the turn. And here I'm going to just go ahead and check. And then when we miss, we're just going to go ahead and fold. And at this point, I don't know what he's going to call with that's worse, an ace or a 10. I'm just going to go ahead and check. And yeah, definitely not getting value from pocket fours. With this guy 3-bets, I'm just going to go ahead and fold. But I am going to take a look at his 3-betting range. I did analysis on Bovada 5 and L, but I didn't have enough sample size to do it on 10 and L, so always like to sit out and see what people are 3-betting. Interesting spot, 3-bet folds. Could have been a really light, just 3-bet as a squeeze there, or it could simply have been something like ace king or ace queen where he just completely missed out on the flop. Ace 9 off, gonna go ahead and fold to an under the gun raise. And we're just gonna check this here, no reason to start bloating the pot with a weak hand. Against two opponents, I would normally c-bet here, but seeing how this guy only has 77 cents behind, I'm just going to go ahead and check. And when he donks out for 22 cents, I am getting 3-to-1 pot odds. I only have around 12% equity with my overs, and just not a good price. He has no money behind, so I'm just going to go ahead and make the fold. So that's one thing to always look at, is just look at your equity, estimate your equity, look at the pot odds that you're being given. And if you're not getting good pot odds to call, and if your opponent doesn't have any money behind, then definitely just fold. And it's just crazy tonight on 10 and L. There seem to be tons of fish on 10 and L tonight. People are calling 3-bets like crazy. Again, I'm going to sit out just to see what people are flatting 3-bets with. Ace Queen against this opponent, I am going to go ahead and lead out. Not only can I represent the king, but even if he calls, I can double barrel on a diamond or an ace. When he min raises me here, I'm just going to go ahead and fold. $10-8, I'm going to go ahead and flat, getting 7-to-1. And we do have a gutter for the straight, for the low end of the straight. And here, I'm going to go ahead and raise the limper. getting horrendous odds. Just go ahead and fold. So I am doing a video series, and I am doing videos for how to beat Bovada Zone, but this is not my game of choice, and the reason why is because you don't know who you're playing against from hand to hand. I recommend the standard games over the zone games because the standard games are softer. The zone games tend to attract more of the rugged type of players that are going to be better. So you're going to see less people going to the flop, you're going to see less weaker opponents, and of course, since it is anonymous, going from table to table, you really have no clue who is who unless somebody's playing an insanely deep stack like, something like 250 or 400 big blind stack. Here I am going to call. And this is a good flop for us. I'm going to go ahead and raise the limper here. And of course I'm never folding here. This is not the greatest flop, but I am not checking it. I'm going to be taking a bet fold line, and I'm going to bet on the larger side. And the reason for that is to discourage people from calling with a flush draw. So again here, look at your pot odds. I only have 8 outs, giving me roughly 16% equity. It's not that much more that I have to call if I do hit it. I think I'm going to get paid off. If a 3 hits, I'm probably not going to get paid off. If an 8 hits, I will. So with that said, since the 3 hits, the wheel hits, I'm not going to get paid off. Just go ahead and make the fold. And here we're just going to go ahead and flat the deep stack. You could 3-bet, but flatting's fine as well. And when somebody makes a fishy min 3-bet here, this is just going to be easy flat, especially when you get multiple people calling. Hopefully I flop another set and it holds up. And unfortunately I miss out on the set, so we're going to be check folding. Good flop for us here. Only thing we're worried about is a set of 7s or a set of 6s. We have a fishy player leading out. I'm never folding here. Just go ahead and call. Let him continue to value on himself. The only thing that completes is an 8-10 here. Wonderful flop for us. And only thing I'm worried about is if they have a jack and they have a better kicker. When he does check there, I am going to go ahead and bet for value. And I am going to check one more time to hope somebody catches up and somebody fires out on the turn. I just don't think I get any value any other way. Versus a 3-bet here, it's easy fold. And here we're going to just bet half pot, try to get them to call. And at least we get a little bit of value on the river there. I'll go ahead and take a look at what they had. So that's the reason why I so played that, is that I felt like they didn't have anything strong, and if I donked out on the flop or if I bet the turn, nobody was calling. Oddly enough though, this really makes no sense at all. Player 2, which was the initial, looks like the initial raiser, he flopped trip jacks with an ace kicker, and he took a check call line on the river for a half pot size bet, and he didn't bet the turn. So I'm really dumbfounded by that, and I'm actually going to go ahead and pull this in to show you. So he had ace jack off, and he checked the flop, he checked the turn, and he only called a half pot size bet for 16 cents on the river. So I don't really understand that. You tell me, this is Bovada 5-L, people do weird things. Was he really afraid that the hearts hit on the river? I really don't get it, and I don't get the check on the turn either. So, yeah, anybody watching this video, if you can tell me what he was thinking, please do, because I really don't have a clue. Against this half stack here, I am going to check. I don't think I have that much fold equity. Here I'm going to call this min raise in position. And when he bets, I'm just going to go ahead and fold. I don't have a heart, so just an easy fold for me. And we pretty much miss out on this altogether. I am going to go ahead and open up 7-8 suited under the gun. Don't mind playing suited connectors out of position. Easy fold. And this is really great flop for us. Just bet just over half pot size bet. I have the gutter for the straight draw for the straight. I have the flush draw. And I also have overcards. Just going to go ahead and continue to bet the turn as well. And going to go ahead and bet the river as well. So don't be afraid to double barrel there when you have that much equity on that board texture. I had 12 outs on the turn, and so, you know, I don't mind double barreling there, especially if on the flop he has some sort of a gutter straight draw for the wheel, and he's calling with that as well. And he ended up having pocket tens, and he ended up making a set of tens on the river. Interesting that he didn't raise with a set of tens on the river, but you know what? I'm fine with getting as much value as I did. I think if I just jam the river, he probably calls me as well because it looks fishy, but I think we got decent value on that hand. Ace 5 off, go ahead and fold. 7-6 off, again, go ahead and fold. And the reason why I played the suited connector under the gun is that implied odds type of hands tend to go up in value in these games because people are playing anonymous tables every single hand that you don't know who you're playing against. So you don't have any sort of reads other than stack reads and bet sizing reads. Other than that, everything's out the door. So they're more attached to hands like an overpair or a top pair, top pair, top kicker type of a hand than they would be in a regular game. And then again, it's micro stakes on Bovada, so again, people are more attached as well. Pocket aces, hopefully these will hold up. This is going to be, I'm going to go ahead and pot it, and I'm going to make it bigger because again, this guy's deep stacked, and hopefully he's going to want to call. And he's raising under the gun. Hopefully he has strong range. Hopefully he has kings or queens, and we're going to cooler him, but he folds. So I was hoping that he would call a bigger 3-bet there simply because he was deep stacked, and I was semi-deep stacked, 120 big blinds. Pocket nines, definitely playing this hand unless somebody opens and somebody 3-bets before it gets to me. Again, my 2.5x, pretty standard open here. Not adjusting my sizing, just keeping it standard on the button. And good spot to c-bet here with the overpair. Do not like the heart, and I do not like the 10, so for that reason I am just going to go ahead and check for pot control. And decent river for us. And let's go ahead and check it down because we do have good showdown value here. And he was just floating with ace-jack for an over. So I guess I could have bet that turn. But then again, we don't know what their range is, so we just have to come up with some standard lines. I've gotten pocket queens like there's no tomorrow today. It seems like out of all the big pocket pairs, there are always pocket queens. And I'm betting larger for exploitively value. I get 3-bet here. I'm going to go ahead and just flat. And hopefully he does not have aces or kings or jacks. It looks like he was just doing a polarized range there, or maybe he had ace king. And you know, that's the one thing that I noticed is that I don't think people are really implementing a polarized 3-betting range here at the micros. This guy doesn't have any money behind, so for that reason, I'm just going to go ahead and fold my 7s. Well, it's only 25 cents. I am getting decent implied odds here. He has around, I am getting 8-1, so actually I'm going to call, looking at his stack size, and I'm glad that I did. And a perfect spot to take a check call line. And then on the river, we're just going to go ahead and put them all in. Make sure we get some value out of our hand. And thank you, sir. We just coolered you. Going to go ahead and bet on the larger side because of the wet board texture. Straight draw and flush draw on the board. Definitely not a fan of the diamond, but we do have the second nut flush draw, so we do block that. I am going to go ahead and bet for that reason. And the only thing here that beats me on the river is the ace, so I'm going to go ahead and check for showdown value. And not really sure what he was doing there, what he was calling me down with, what he was trying to get out of that. But I guess I could have bet for some value there. I think I missed some value. But I don't know what he's calling me with if he doesn't have the ace of diamonds on that river, so I just decided to go ahead and check. But seeing that how he did have the queen, I think if I bet small, he's probably going to pay me off with a little bit of value. Five, six off, going to go ahead and fold. Ace queen here against two callers. I'm just going to go ahead and check. And we make the nut straight on the turn, so that's a good result for us here. We block the nut flush draw with the clubs. We block the queen over here as well. So I'm going to bet on the bigger side. And unfortunately, they both fold. I'm going to go ahead and defend versus a button open. I think Jack King off is fine to defend versus their range. But then when we get this complete fish, I think he's probably jamming with almost complete air, to be honest. But I don't want to call. I'm hoping he calls so I can just see what he has. But I can almost guarantee somebody this short is probably just tilted and jamming. If I had ace jack suited, I'd probably call. But I think king jack off is a little too far down in my range for me to call. I think that if he does have air, I'm way ahead. But I'm just going to go ahead and fold. So we're close to 27 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. I'm going to go ahead and sit out on all the tables and do kind of a bit of a tally to see how well I did for this session. Definitely seems to look like it did a lot better than before. Here, I'm going to go ahead and call. But I'm going to play very cautiously. I think if I hit two pair, or if I hit the queen, then I'm pretty much golden here if I hit the flush. But when I have middle pair with a mediocre kicker, I'm just going to go ahead and fold. I was getting 5-to-1 odds, so that's why I called there. And I wouldn't recommend that a beginning player call there, but I think getting 5-to-1 odds, if you are a decent player at the micro stakes, I think you can profitably call there and make the right decisions. So, you know, pretty good session overall. I did get coolered early on in the session when I flopped top set and my opponent turned the nut straight on the turn. I called him down because, you know, I thought that he could have had ace king where he had the ace high flush draw with top pair top kicker, and then even if he did have the flush there, I had just about perfect pot odds to call for it to be a break-even call, so I made that call. So you know, even with that cooler at 5-L, I only lost like $1.20, so like 24 big blinds, so I'm happy with that result. And then at 10-L, looks like I won close to 60 big blinds, and so happy with that result as well. Let me know what you think about, you know, how I played the hands here. Let me know what you think about me calling it off with the set there on the turn at the 5-L and Bovada zone. Tell me if you think that that was plus EV, minus EV. If you would have called it off there, do you think he's only jamming with the nut flush, or do you think that he's jamming with, he floated me with something like ace king or ace queen where he picked up top pair with the ace high or the queen high flush draw? I think both were in his range, so, you know, let me know what you think as well. But, you know, that's going to go ahead and conclude this video. Hopefully you liked it. If you do not subscribe to my channel, please go ahead and click the button down here at the bottom corner that says subscribe, and subscribe to my channel for all my latest updates. Thanks for watching. It's been Outten with MicroGrinder.com, and we'll see you at the next video.